So I am a registered dietitian and I am a farmer, and as of yesterday we have had our first farmers market, and so I brought a little addition.
Cool.
The recipes that I'm going to make today should be in your packets that you got, and I just have one addition to that because I had to bring you something that I grew myself for the first time. So I'm really excited to tell you about that. And I want to keep this pretty casual, so I'm going to kind of do this as I would if I were like a cooking show, but I also want you to be able to ask questions and, you know, contribute relational points if there are other things that you know of ingredient-wise that you've tried or that you like. And my goal for today is to have you walking out of here thinking, I'm going to try that, or I'm going to do that, or there's something that she made me think about that I can apply, because this is where the rubber meets the road. You know, we can tell you all day long, you know, eat your vegetables, drink more water, but if you don't actually do those things, if you don't know how to do those things, then there's kind of like a block there. So the biggest barriers to eating well that I hear a lot as a health coach are I don't have enough time, which I would like to reframe as I didn't make it a priority. We all have enough time, it's just a matter of how we're using that time. Too busy goes along with that as well. I think there is a little bit of a knowledge barrier. People might know, well, I should eat more vegetables or I should eat certain ways, but I don't know exactly why or what that means. And then there's also the skill thing where you have to actually know how to hold a knife and how to cut things and how to do things in the kitchen. So that's what all of that comes together in an actual food demo. So this is my favorite style of presentation where I can actually show things to you and talk things through to you. And then the next step would be is if I came to your house and cooked with you in your kitchen, which is an option. So if that's something that you need, you can find me on my website. So, breakfast. People are eating breakfast? Raise your hands. Yes? Most people? This group is definitely higher than average. Usually I get about a third to a half of hands up in a room when I ask that question. And reasons for that vary from I'm not hungry in the morning, which is natural, to I'm too rushed, or I didn't, you know, make time, or I was on my way somewhere and all I had was coffee. That's a very common one. And so what I'm doing in this demo is showing the summer version of oatmeal. So now that we're finally getting into some warmer weather, you probably don't want a big steaming bowl of oats in the morning when it's, you know, going to be 105 degrees outside. So overnight oats are the cold version of oatmeal, and you don't have to cook them. So has anyone tried this before? Couple people? Okay, great. After this, you will all be able to do this. You can literally do this with no skill level whatsoever. I've made a batch ahead because they're called overnight oats because they should sit in your fridge overnight. So the sample that you're actually going to eat is going to be one that I made last night for you. And I like to do a combination of oats and chia seeds because chia seeds are also really high in fiber and protein, and they form a gel. They're so high in fiber that they form a gel in a liquid. So they help the oats, which are also going to help kind of gel themselves by adding those two things together. And I made this batch with just an unsweetened vanilla almond milk, just because I know a lot of people have difficulty digesting dairy, but you can do this with any kind of milk that you drink, soy milk, coconut milk, you know, cow's milk. And the ratio is just 2 to 1 milk to oats. So I like to make mine, you guys Talenti container keepers.
Yeah.
These things are so handy. So I've got a couple of these in my countertop, and I like to make a single serving in here. So there's a cup of milk in here already, and then you're just going to measure out a half cup of old-fashioned oats. You can also do this with quick oats or instant oats. You don't want to do this with steel-cut oats because they actually are a little bit too hard to actually be just infused as we're sort of doing here with liquid.
What kind of oats are those? Sorry.
What's that?
What kind are these?
Old-fashioned, also called rolled oats because these are actually physically, when they're processed, they are rolled through two long, what do you call these, like wheels or something to kind of smush them flat, which makes them have a lot more surface area so they can absorb liquid a lot easier. So you just get your half cup to a cup, and then a little tablespoon or 2 of chia seeds. These things are phenomenal. These are literally like the chia pet seeds. So you can also sprout these and grow little greens, which are also edible. But for people that do have, let's say, digestive motility issues, like a tablespoon of chia seeds a day is a great natural first route to try before you turn to medications. This is also like the original shake-a pudding. Do you guys remember shake-a puddings from the 80s? So you'll just let this sit. You can see it's still very liquidy now overnight in your fridge. And you can either add the honey on this stage or at the end just as a drizzle. And so I'm going to offer this here if you guys want a little bit of extra. You can use any kind of sweetener that you like, and I always get questions about sugar. Sugar is sugar is sugar. It will all break down to be fructose and glucose in your body and will be processed either in your liver or sent into your bloodstream to give your body a fast source of energy. So whether it is table sugar or honey or agave or whatever other sort of health halo marketing pitch sugars are out there, it will basically hit your body in the same way pretty much. So a little bit of the real thing is my preference, and then you have the whole other category of your non-nutritive sweeteners, which have no calories: stevia, sucralose, aspartame. There's a huge list of non-nutritive sweeteners, which also work. And again, the rule of thumb is just a little bit is fine with me. So, and vanilla. Just for flavor, you can also add whatever extract you like. I like to do sometimes some almond extract because I'm a big fan of almonds. Maybe even some like orange extract, or then you can also go crazy with spices in this, some cinnamon, some cardamom, and just put this in your fridge, and then when you're on your way to work, you just literally grab this out. So I recommend serving any kind of oatmeal with some sort of fruit, some sort of nut, some sort of seed that will actually boost up the fiber and protein for you. And you could either make these in like single serving containers so that you can grab each one, or in a big batch like this and just scoop some out every morning. But this sort of takes away the whole excuse of like, I didn't have time for breakfast, because you had time the night before, throw it in that container, you're good to go. So what I've got here when you come up to sample this at the end are some roasted salted pumpkin seeds, some coconut granola that I just got from a bin. I did not make the granola myself. You could also make the granola yourself. And blueberries, which are, really great fruit because they have sugar but also a lot of fiber, and they're not going to spike your blood glucose, and they have been linked to better brain function if you eat them regularly and throughout our lives, and especially in older age. So simple as that. Any questions about overnight oats, or maybe other suggestions of really fast breakfasts that you guys like?
Can you stick the blueberries, let's say, in the overnight oats?
Yeah.
Overnight?
Yeah. And actually, to your point, I like to use sometimes frozen berries, especially if they're not in season.
Oh.
So I will take the frozen berries and put them in, and then you'll, of course, sort of dye your milk a little bit, so it'll turn blue or purple or red or whatever. But that also adds to the flavor.
So they'll have thawed out in the fridge?
Yes, exactly. Because I don't know about you guys, but I don't like to eat like a crunchy frozen berry unless it's like, again, you're in the 100-degree weather. So in the fridge overnight is a great way to thaw your berries in the overnight oats and still have them be a good texture and flavor. Yeah.
I love adding nuts to my oatmeal, but are there some nuts that are better than others? I think some have higher fat than others.
They all have roughly the same ratio of things. Macadamias have a lot lower protein and higher fat, but most of the general like nuts, like walnuts, almonds, pecans, Brazil nuts, these types of things have about the same amount of protein and fiber. But they do have different types of fatty acids and different antioxidants. So when it comes to nuts, I just recommend variety. And either that could be a variety where you actually have a mixed nut that you're eating a variety every day, or you're switching off from week to week. Variety is a huge factor in human nutrition, and that's because we evolved in a setting where we were eating lots of different things, and our bodies have the ability to digest so many different things that, of course, there's no one perfect food that has all the nutrients. So variety, yeah. And did you have your hand up?
But she asked my question.
Oh, super. Yes, yeah, you can put everything right in there. The nuts, of course, might get a little bit like waterlogged, and if you want them crisp and crunchy, I would add those at the end or keep them in a separate container.
Will the lid pop off if you put too much stuff in there? Will the lid?
The Talentis will not, because they screw on. But if you use like just a pressure snapper, maybe that would come off. I don't know. So that's our fast grab-and-go breakfast.
Flaxseed be good to add?
Flaxseed would be great. And flaxseed, ground flaxseed, actually does sort of the same thing as chia seeds, and it kind of gels up a little bit. Whole flax seeds are good for the fiber benefit and that they will move through you, but they will not be digested by you, so you might notice that on the other end. So if you're choosing, I would choose ground, just because then you're actually getting all of the fatty acids and protein and things that are inside the flax seed. Your body's not able to break that down. So Yeah.
Would you be able to make like a big batch for over a few days, or is it best to just do it just for one batch for the next
No,
morning?
you can do it. You can do it for the whole week.
Okay.
Just keep it in your fridge and portion it out into your little container as you go. That's definitely the most space-efficient way, probably, to do it in your kitchen. Yeah.
Ground flaxseed, can you store that in a cupboard or do you have to put that in the fridge?
It'll last longer in the fridge, but you can store it in the cupboard if you're going through it at a reasonable pace and just paying attention to the date. And you can really, I mean, you can tell rancidity by smelling things. If you smell something and it's kind of like funky and doesn't smell good, again, we evolved to be able to sense and tell if our food is good or bad. I remember when I first moved to DC, I had this roommate, we were both like 22, and she was like, I don't know if this chicken's good, and I said, smell it. She's like, what should it smell like? And I said, just smell it, and she goes, oh, yeah, that's bad, that's not good chicken. So like, you don't need to like,
So flaxseed has a smell to it when it turns bad?
well, oils will get rancid over time, and they
Okay.
kind of do have a different flavor and odor to them. And it's not gonna like kill you or
But it'll
make
smell
you
funny.
sick, but it'll smell off and it won't be as good for you. So just, yeah, pay attention to your own evaluation of the food and the package date. And this whole theme transfers to lunch because this theme is bulk prep, right? It's like, how can I do a lot in a short period of time and have that go throughout the week? I eat freshly cooked meals all week long. I do not cook freshly cooked meals for 21 meals throughout the week, right? You're trying to like condense this into a reasonable time frame that you can actually do things in the world. So bulk prep is fantastic. So the things that I've bulk prepped ahead for the Asian zoodle bowl are, I have the first ingredient as just any kind of whole grain, and what I brought for you guys today is actually a new product on the market. Have you guys seen this Banza brand before? So they started with a chickpea-based pasta. So it's with the pastas, and it's got like penne and an elbow and like a couple of other shapes of pasta. And then they recently just came out with what they're calling rice, but it's actually their same sort of pasta in a like rice-like or kind of orzo-like shape. And so one serving of this has 10 grams of protein and 5 grams of fiber. And you could use quinoa, you could use sorghum, you could use other cooked grains. But again, you're not going to wait for water to boil 5 times throughout the week. You're going to cook this at once. You're going to keep it in the fridge, usually 4 or 5 days. You might want to, start cooking a fresh recipe or batch on like Thursday or Friday, depending on when you prepped it. But I just brought in the package so you guys can check this out if you like. And I will make the point that this is a little bit more expensive, but we have been trained by the restaurant industry, the fast food restaurant industry, that value means a lot for a little bit of money. And the quantity is not equated with quality. And so if you're looking at actual things like protein and fiber and micronutrient balance, that value meal, even if it only costs, $5 or $6 and gives you 2,000 calories right in that one meal, is not giving you, all the vitamin A, vitamin K, protein, fiber, et cetera, that you need in a day. So if you can kind of switch the paradigm from what nutrient quality am I paying for, that makes the ratio look a lot better if you're comparing cheap fast food and processed food to food that you're maybe having to pay a little bit more for, but is going to give you a much better bang for your buck over time. And there are some studies that show that as countries, we tend to pay for it on the front end or the back end. Countries that spend more of their annual salary on food spend less of their annual salary on healthcare. So you're either going to feel good and hopefully live a long time, or maybe not feel so good. So I know I'm kind of preaching to a choir here, so I'm not like going to hammer that point home too hard. But so I've already cooked up this Banza rice pasta. I actually used 2 of these bags, which is why the volume is so high in here. And I cooked up some chicken this morning, and I'm just going to describe to you how I did that, and you'll get to option whether you put it on or not. I wanted to make it an option for people in case you don't eat chicken, but it's all chicken breasts, which I think are the easiest to cook with, but can also get a little bit dry. So I like to pat mine dry first, and then put them in a hot pan. I use avocado oil because it has a higher smoke temperature, higher smoke point, so you can heat to a higher temperature. And have the oil still be stable and good. You're gonna basically season up your chicken breast with salt, pepper, garlic powder, sear it on one side, wait till it's golden brown, turn it over, sear it on the other side, put the lid on so that it can actually contain a little bit more heat, and then you are going to cook it to temp. You're going to look at a meat thermometer. Who has a meat thermometer? Most people, good. And go to 160. So I just keep the lid on, and every now and then I just poke the thickest portion of the meat and make sure I'm getting to 160 for food safety purposes, and that both sides look kind of nice and golden brown. So the meat I have separately that I'll get out, and I'm actually going to move some things to the side here. Does anyone have a problem with me putting this on the speaker? Is this a bad thing to do? Okay, putting it there just so you guys can see my tray here. Because I'm going to demo a couple of things. The first being zoodles. So you guys, I'm sure, have by now seen zoodles in the store. Yes, everyone's seen like a zucchini or carrot or sweet potato based noodle. How many people have made them themselves? 5, 6? Okay, great.
How are they packaged?
They're usually in with the other like sort of prep chopped vegetables. So if you go into like a Wegmans or a Whole Foods in the produce, exactly. And the only thing that I've done that they haven't done, which you don't want to do until you're ready to kind of eat it, is sprinkled it with a little bit of salt, which kind of softens it and makes it release some of its water, and it'll obviously taste a lot better. So I brought with me today my zoodler. These things are awesome because they can, well, this one in particular can cut into either a noodle or a ribbon. It has a flat blade and then also like a julienning blade. So you're just going to peel your carrot if you're doing a carrot, and you just start it in here and you start twisting, and you hopefully keep it low enough so that it goes into your bowl. And I want to try to hold it so that.
Where does one buy a zoodler?
I got this on Amazon for $10. And they have many different brands, and I used to actually have, the reason I got this one recently is because I had a tabletop version. You'll see them also, they're kind of like
Like a machine?
They have a crank.
That's
yes,
what I
they have a
have.
box and then a crank.
Yeah.
And I've had 2 of those, and the second handle finally snapped off again, and I was just like, too many moving parts, and you're putting pressure on the crank,
Yeah.
which is why it breaks. So this one, no moving parts, it's gonna hopefully last me a lot longer.
Yeah.
And I have the box if you want to look at the brand of it. I was actually gonna mention that, it's a little bit of workout, I feel this in my forearms and my pecs and my shoulders. So the key with this, if you wanted to make a really long noodle, is to keep the pressure on as you're kind of going, and it's much easier to do with the zucchini, as you'll see in a minute. But I've already got some carrots zoodled into there, so I'm going to let that one go for now. The only thing you have to do with your zucchini is just cut the very little end off, and make sure you have the right side. And then, turn this around again. And then as you twist, like this will actually just zoodle the whole thing, and you will have a zoodle that's like 40 feet long, which is sort of useless when you're trying to eat it with a fork. So I always like to kind of like break mine and pull it out after every maybe like 5 to 7 twists, so that you actually end up with more of like a, normal sized noodle. And the other nice thing about this one over the tabletop one, I've realized, is that the tabletop one pushes through a core, so you get a section in the middle that you can't use, but this is actually zoodling up the entire thing. So, I'm just going to finish doing this. This is actually pretty fun and pretty safe. I would say you could start having kids help you with this when they're like 9 or 10 maybe, as long as they keep their fingers away from the blade. And it comes with its own little like cleaning brush and a peeler.
Are the blades replaceable on that?
I do not think that they are. But at $10, if you had to replace this every year, you still wouldn't be hurting too much.
Right.
And most of the foods that you're going to do this with are pretty soft. I haven't tried this yet with a sweet potato. And the only other downside of using this cone-shaped one is that obviously anything that's not a cylinder shape won't really work in here. So you couldn't do, let's say, an apple probably too easily in here, the way that you could in the standing desk ones. So yeah. Do other people have this model that said that they have zoodlers, this little handheld model?
I have the one that's on the table.
You have the table one?
Mine's similar. It looks cheaper than that one. But I picked it up, I don't know where, like at Macy's or someplace.
Yeah. They're everywhere now. And I mean, I do recommend that you do this yourself, but again, if you don't have the time, then there isn't an excuse because they are literally already zoodled up in the
They have them at Trader Joe's now.
produce section. These things or the zoodle?
The noodles themselves.
The noodles
giant
themselves, yeah. Yeah, I've seen them in pretty much every grocery store that I've gone into recently.
Right.
So, and you can make like a tremendous amount of zoodles. Again, this would be something you would do once a week and then hopefully have throughout the whole week. So these are going to be zoodles to serve. Well, I'm not going to worry about that. Okay, so my zoodles are going to go in with my rice. Toss this together all at the end. Okay. And now I'm going to demo a mandolin, which
What did you just add? I missed that.
Zoodles to the right.
the zoodles
Oh,
to
to
the
the
rice.
right,
Yeah,
okay.
haven't done anything new, and I'm actually
Okay.
just, as I'm watching myself here, I'm going to start doing my salad dressing just so I don't spill things all over the place. So I've put most of my salad dressings in another Talenti container just for ease of transport. But you can see on your list there that it's, well actually, is someone looking at this recipe right now?
Yeah.
Read out the list of ingredients that are in this dressing.
Sesame oil, soy sauce, grated ginger,
Mhm.
a clove of garlic, honey, fish sauce, tahini, water. The scallions go in there too.
No, those are just going to be
Okay.
garnished, thank you. So yeah, that's pretty much it, and I didn't add the honey yet, so we're
If you
just
didn't
gonna.
want the fish sauce, is there something you should add in place of it, or just leave it out?
Well, you could just leave it out. It adds a lot of good like umami flavor.
Soy sauce maybe?
More soy sauce, yeah. Yeah, fermented. Any kind of like, maybe like a hoisin sauce? Something still in the Asian family that's gonna actually give it some good flavor depth. And I'm not adding salt to this because soy sauce is so very high in sodium. So don't add more. And the reason I'm putting it in my blender is because I'm going to add my ginger, and you can either use a microplane just to grate this, or you can just use a high processing food blender to do this. But you can actually peel ginger with a spoon, the side of a spoon. So this is a great one for kids to help with. The skin is really thin, comes off nice and easily, and you're just going to take that outer layer off. I try to look for pieces that are like already in kind of a long, easy to peel shape, so that I'm not dealing with too many like weird little. Yeah, exactly. And there's still a couple on this guy, but.
Then whose job is it to eat all the gelato so you have enough containers?
I've been saving some of these for a while, but you know, my husband actually does not prefer the Talenti brand. If he eats this kind of thing, he wants like a real full-on ice cream experience, not just a gelato. But I prefer Talenti, and I think they have amazing flavors. So they should give me a sponsorship. All of these people should give me a sponsorship. If anybody knows anyone at Vitamix or Zoodle Maker or whatever, let me know. So I'm just gonna, yeah, you can smell it from there.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna cut it into a couple chunks so that it purees more easily. And then we're also gonna do some garlic, which of course if you've ever watched a cooking show, you know how to do garlic, where you just take the clove off and then use the side of your knife and give it a good smash, and then just pull the paper right off. And I love to use the blender for dressings just because I'm mostly lazy. My husband will happily dice ginger or garlic for like 5 minutes until it's like a beautiful paste, and I'm like, I don't have the time for that. So I use the blender, and then it's a matter of just. That's all there is to it. don't even need a super fancy blender to make a dressing. So this, any blender will do this, a NutriBullet, anything. And the tahini here is acting not only as a source of some good fatty acids, but also as an emulsifier, because it's kind of a thick paste, so it will kind of make everything stick happily together. So I'm going to move this guy out of the way.